Alright guys, so what we're doing here today, I've been meaning to make this for a while. Welcome to the stream or to the YouTube channel, depending on where you're watching this, Twitch or YouTube. But basically, this is going to be exactly what it says, a tutorial for the basics of CK3. Then my next video will get into pro strats, and then you, just like me, will then be able to conquer the world pretty much every game pretty easily. I've got 3,500, 4,000, something like that hours in CK2, and I picked up CK3 well, pre-order, and I'm pretty impressed with it. I've been waiting to make this video though until I was sure I had everything down on the advanced level pretty well. So regardless of what kind of player you are, whether you enjoy the strategy or the role play, I'm a big strategy guy, but I really enjoy the role play, and I put that into my strategies as well. But let's go ahead and get into it here. We're going to go ahead and make a new game. I always start the latest date because that gives me more of a game to play. And if you set yourself up well, you can actually come out ahead versus starting out when technologies are already done. But that, I'll talk more about that in the next more advanced tutorial. Now, if you're just starting out, I really recommend play something small. The reason for that is it's a lot easier to learn the game by far. Actually, I start out small every game just because I enjoy it. That way, when I do have a large nation, it's something I built out of nothing, a single county. Maybe up to 3 counties I'll start with, but that's it. That's as high as I'll ever go. Because then, you know, you did that. If you start out big and you're big, well, it doesn't really mean anything, does it? You started that way. You have a lot more to lose. Starting out like this, you have a lot less to lose. In fact, it's game over if you lose something. Anyway, so start out small. It's much easier to learn the game, and in my view, much more satisfying throughout the gameplay. Now, I'm telling you right now, if you haven't played Vikings, play Vikings. They are the best. They are so much fun. I love it. Absolutely love it. Now, we're going to start out Irish here. It's also a good start, but you end up with the Vikings raiding you all the time, etc. So be prepared for that if you go anywhere in England, Ireland, Scotland. But Vikings are awesome. I love them. But we'll go ahead and be Irish over here. We are tribal. We are insular, which is a break-off of the Catholic faith, and we are tribal. Now, we just got in the game. What are we looking at? This is a basic tutorial, guys. So we're going to start from the basics as if you just installed it for the first time. So let's look at this. We have our monthly income here, extremely important. It shows you, this will show you expenses. Right now we have none, obviously. 1.3 a month is what we make, and we have 15 gold. Prestige. This is very important. You'll use it. The higher your prestige rank, this goes up. You'll see the progress bar here. Every time you gain prestige, you get a little bit in that progress bar, depending on how much prestige you're making per month and in lump sums through events. At the higher prestige levels, see distinguished, you get +1 knight, and then people of your religion, +3. Or, I'm sorry, that's actually just in general +3. It's secular, so it's any religion. Anyway, anytime you gain prestige, both monthly and in lump sum through events, you gain some progress towards the next rank. And those ranks will affect, mainly what it affects is, other than, being a high rank, people love you, okay? It really makes your opinion great. It makes it easier to control a big nation. But we're small. But the higher that prestige, the better the CB, Casus Belli, the reason you have to declare war is. So you can do invade kingdom and things like that when you have higher prestige. Well, the highest, really. Exalted among men, I believe, is the minimum. And then above that, the very top one is living legend. But very important. And then you have your piety. This is how devout you are to your faith. You see we gain 1.31 a month. Right now I'm spending, it's costing me, rather, 0.5 a month, just because I don't have enough wives. I'm zealous, so I get plus 20%. That's pretty good. Our religion owns a holy site. Oh well. Anyway, yeah, come on. Okay, our religion owns a holy site, so we get plus 5%. Our learning affects it, how much you gain monthly. The higher your learning, the more you gain. And then religious relations, that's what my counselor is currently working on. That gives me piety as well. Now we have renown. This is your dynasty's renown, your family. Okay. Right now I have 4 living members. There's me, my son and heir, and then my grandson I started out with, and some guest that is part of my family somehow. You can see every living member of your dynasty in the screen. There's a lot going on in this screen though, so I'll come back to that. Here we have troops. Oh, so renown. Oh, we just click here. That's nice. Basically the main point of that is to unlock your dynasty legacies. Each of these have different bonuses. They add up and they apply to everyone in your dynasty. Every single character, for better or worse, will have these. They get extremely strong, and you want to pick them depending on your personal strategy and playstyle and what you're after here. So please keep that in mind. There's a lot to look through. It's all really good. A lot of good stuff in here. One I want to point out though, well, two, is the kin and the blood. Those are very good, because you want to have the best traits as possible. See this one, plus 10% fertility, so you'll have more kids, and everyone in your dynasty will have more kids. Better education traits, that's obvious. I don't even have to explain that. Constant care, spouse opinion, etc. And then up here, congenital traits. Those are inheritable. Your kids can inherit them, and their kids, and so on and so on. So, plus 30% good ones, plus 30% chance of new good ones. So lots of great stuff in here, though. House of Warriors, etc., etc. You can look through it on your own, but that's what Renown's for. Here, we have our domain. This is how many counties. So Desmond here that we own, we have 1 county. This is how many counties we can properly manage ourselves. Now, if you go over that, your vassals get really angry, and you get a really big hit on, we'll go to realm here, how much money and levies you get. So you want to make sure to stay within your domain limit. Now there's things you can do to raise that right off the bat. You can see here, now every 5 points of stewardship you have, you get 1 extra domain that you can handle. The higher rank you are, so right now we're a count, because we own, or earl, We own a county. Once we own a duchy, which is a duke that has counts underneath them. So we would then have vassals, which we have none now. That's a higher rank. You would be able to have a higher domain. Above that is king, and then emperor, etc., etc., etc. It just keeps getting larger. But every 5 points of stewardship you have, you get one extra domain. Now, I said let's go ahead and raise it off the bat, and that's what we're going to do here. As you can see, I searched for someone with higher stewardship to marry. Check this out. Let's unpause a second. Thank you. Alright, so now we're married. Now what? How are we going to raise that? Well, let's go to counselor. See the wife here. Assist ruler is okay, but let's go to manage domain. Look at that. 1 out of 7. Right off the bat. All I did was get married. Okay, so the stats your wife has really matter, and will go with your play style as well. Maybe it's just... So anything you're lacking, if you get the right wife, you can get a huge boost really quick. So keep that in mind. It really can help you out a lot. Now this domain tab, you can see every county you control here. So when we're large, we'll be able to manage everything right here. It'll tell you in green whether you can upgrade anything or build anything. It's not green right now, even though we have the ability, because we don't have the money. When you have the money and everything you need to build, it will say can upgrade building or something of that sort here. Real obvious. For every county will be listed. Here we have all our vassals. We don't have any right now, but this is where our vassals would go. And then our succession law. Now, something they did in CK3 versus CK2, in CK2, the starting succession law for tribal gavel kind was the most hated thing in the world. So what Paradox do? They managed to come up with one even worse. It's called Confederate Partition, okay? And the reason this is worse is Confederate Partition, as opposed to Partition or High Partition or any of the other ones, okay? Confederate Partition, the reason it is the absolute worst one is, let's say we owned, let's say we owned half of Ireland here, okay? We own half of Ireland, but we're still a count. And we can hold 7 domains. So we can do that. Not a problem. Everything would be great. However, when we died, if we had more than one son, which hopefully we do, because having just one heir all the time, you're really pushing your luck to end up in a bad spot quick. But whenever there's more than one son, or heir, depending on your religion and everything like that, but in this scenario, only sons matter for inheritance. If you have more than one son, it will create the 2 duchies. Confederate Partition creates new titles in order to properly split up land. In CK2 with Gavelkind, all you had to do was not create the titles and only have one top title, so even if your counties got split up, you would always be on top, and it wasn't such a big deal because your family having land is a good thing. Well, if let's say we owned all of Scotland here, which is Elba. So we owned Elba and all of Ireland. That's 2 kingdoms. But we don't have, let's say we just have the Ireland, Kingdom of Ireland title. Okay, so we're King of Ireland, we conquer Scotland. This guy dies of old age. I have more than one son. Guess what? Now you only own Ireland. Because your brother will own Scotland. And you'll have to conquer him again, all over again, to get it back. Okay? So Confederate Partition is the absolute worst. Thank you, Paradox, for making something hated. Even more than Gavelkind, which is absolutely hated, is the absolute worst one. Until they made this. So, now, there are a lot of things you can do to manage it. and we'll get into that. But this is a basics, and I'll save all that for the next video, which will get more advanced. Okay, but right now I'm just showing you what everything is and how it works. Now here's our gender law. As I said, male preference. If it's male preference, only the men are going to inherit unless you only have daughters. Okay, so which is good. I prefer that over male only, because if I have only daughters, you know what? I still want to be in the game. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. You gotta be careful though. Keep track of who your heir is. Okay. Now you are. Say we right click here, go to more, disinherit. You can disinherit people. It costs 300 per, well, it depends on if they're landed or not, this, that, the other thing. If they're not landed, it's 300 prestige and 75 renown. If they are landed, it's either 75 or 150 renown and 900 prestige, so it goes up. So if you plan on disinheriting people, do it prior to giving them land. And then denounce, since we're here, that gives, as it says, all members of your dynasty an imprisonment reason against them. That costs 900 prestige or more, depending on if they're landed or whatnot. It's expensive, but it's options. It's just a perk of being the head of your house. Alright. Designated heir. As you can see, we need absolute crown authority. If you have that, you can just designate your heir, and that's fantastic. But that's not our situation, and really that's something you build up to. Just like, and that's the point of Confederate partition versus partition and high partition, which will give your main guy about half, more or less. It seems like less, but I've been having a lot of kids in my playthroughs, but partition will not make new titles. That is the difference. So it's manageable. Okay? Don't make a title equal. Don't have two kingdoms. If you're a duke or duchy is the highest you have, don't make two duchies, etc., etc., and you'll be fine. Same with this. Now, once you get to this one, your youngest inherits everything. So you can have whatever you want. This, which I actually prefer, the youngest inherits everything. Now, the reason I prefer that, even though it makes it more difficult to plan who your heir is going to be, is you get the longest playthrough on a single character. So you're able to accomplish more. Okay? So if you have lofty goals, big goals, that's helpful. House seniority, well, I don't recommend it. And the reason I don't, the oldest of your house inherits all titles. So you're always going to be an old person about to die. Okay? So it's hard to accomplish much. Your vassals will hate you. It doesn't give you much time to get things settled down and start accomplishing things. There might be specific situations where you'd want to jump to that, but unless you have no other option for some weird reason, and think that'll help you for some reason, just know what you're getting into there. A lot of negatives on that one. But anyway, that's Confederate partition. The reason I went into that in such detail is if you don't understand Confederate partition, it will really screw up your game. So extremely important there, guys. Even the guys that have been playing for a while may not completely understand it, so I hope I helped. Because knowing how that works is extremely important. Now, that was the realm crown. Now we're at military. This shows you how many levies. So this is how many peasants you're going to pull out of your military. They're basically cannon fodder, okay? But they're good. You want as many levies as possible. I mean, they're not good, but you want strength in numbers, or as many numbers as possible. Now, knights are a big deal. For every 1 point of prowess a knight has, they do 100 damage. And it gives them 10 toughness. Okay? Toughness is how much damage they can take. Damage, obviously, is how much damage they're going to put out. So the better the knights you have, the better off your military is going to be. Now, what I just do there, I invited champions, except I did it from this screen, to get more knights or champions. It just depends on your religion or if you're tribal. Because we want as good of knights as possible. And as you can see, at any given time here, we have 3 out of 9. We can have up to 9 knights at one time. Okay. Now this champion effectiveness. What's that? Well, if it was at 100%, then these knights would be doing 800 damage. Well, this knight, because he has 8 prowess. But it's at 175. So he's going to do 800 damage plus 75% more damage. Okay? And that just keeps going up exponentially with that. So good to know. Good to know what you're doing and looking at so you can properly have a good army. Now, men-at-arms, extremely important. Now, here's a huge advantage you have is tribal. I love it. I love tribal. They're so much fun. I love Vikings the most, but all tribal are good. As you can see, we pay prestige. We don't pay gold. We pay prestige for troops, for our men-at-arms, at least. That is extremely important. So no, we pay prestige, not gold. Our gold doesn't even matter compared to this. Okay? Soldiers win wars, not gold. Yes, you can buy soldiers with gold, but it's not the same thing. Okay? We're talking about building up our personal army. You want this. You want this. You want this. Now, as you can see, now let's go through each one here. Sorry, I just get real excited. I love tribal. I love that you pay prestige for your troops. It makes sense if you get into the mentality of a tribe. Alright, so light footmen. This is your basic light footmen. And of course, for each one, shows you base damage, excuse me, toughness. Pursuit, this is how fast you're able to chase or move through the map with your soldiers. Screen. This is, I believe, let's see here. A defeated army reduces the amount of casualties they take after. Okay, so the higher screen, the less casualties you'll have. So the less dead soldiers, as opposed to ones that just need to recover because they lost morale. Bowmen. 25. Okay, so it'll show you the stats for each one here. Now, this is extremely important. Train effects. In jungle, plus 4 damage, plus 6 toughness. In taiga, and in forest. All of them are better in different situations, so make sure you keep that in mind. As you can see, the horsemen do a lot worse in wetlands, mountains, desert mountains, and hills. But then if they're in dry lands or plains, then they do great. They're on a horse. They need, room to move around. It makes sense. All right, guys. Now, important to note, light footmen. Type. Type and your counters. Very important. Type, skirmisher. Light footmen counter these types. Heavy infantry. So light infantry or footmen counter heavy. I still don't completely understand that, I'll be honest. That's not the route I would have went, but I can see it because they're more mobile, more agile, etc. But anyway, each individual troop is countered and gets countered by something. Okay? Archers. They counter skirmishers, which are the light footmen. Light horsemen. They counter archers. And they're light cavalry. Light horsemen, light cavalry. Spearmen. They counter light and heavy cavalry, both. And they are extremely good defensive. So, don't think you only want pikemen if they're heavy in cavalry, because pikemen are awesome. I love them. Armored footmen, which is heavy infantry, as you can see here. Counter spearmen. Okay, so if you want to know what counters what, just look at this. Because step down, it counters the one above it. Step down, it counters the one above it, etc. Now, I've noticed, as opposed to early in the game, after patches, because in the beginning, depending on where they were, they would always have like one type of troop, right? But then you counter with it, and then boom, you just slaughter everyone in that area, or your starting area, wherever that is. What I've noticed that they've done in a patch is they now will mix it up. Okay, you will not always, it doesn't matter where they are, they'll have a mix of stuff. Now and then they'll be slightly heavy on one type of troop, like maybe they'll have 2 regiments of one type, but it's mixed up, guys. So really the best is to have a mix of these. You know, one of each is good. I always go, bowmen, horsemen, pikemen. That's really strong. As you can see, we only have 3. I'd really recommend that mix. But if you're just starting out and you need the numbers, hey, you can go light footmen, bowmen, horsemen if you want. But throwing pikemen in there really helps out a lot. Their defensive bonuses are awesome. And as you can see, they have bonuses in 0 negatives. So they're great everywhere, but they're even better in these places. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now, rally point. This is where our troops will pop up. So let's say we owned more than just one county, or hey, how about this county? As you can see, there's all these different spots in the single county. Wow, look at that. So we have our castle, and then we have this empty spot, 3 empty spots to build new holdings. Now we're tribal, so that's not relevant right now, but once we're feudal, that will be extremely relevant. Now, where it may be relevant now, even as tribal, is this. Raise local army, that's self-explanatory. Raise all here, well, that's pretty self-explanatory too. Raise local raiders, that's if you're going to go raid as opposed to being in a war. So if you're going out for loot, just to plunder, and you don't have to declare war for that. You just raise your local raiders and you head off to wherever you want to steal from. But what I want to show you is move rally point. Look at that. So where our troops pop up, it's all dependent on this. You can move it, you can have multiple. Now if you have multiple, they'll pop up in both places evenly, more or less. They'll also pop up depending on the supply limit now after a patch. So if we had 10,000 soldiers, and as you can see, the barony of Kinsale has a supply limit of 3,770, it will not auto raise more in this particular spot, more than the supply limit can handle, so it'll go to the next spot, etc., etc., and split up your troops that way. So if your troops are getting split up and you want to why, that's most likely why. And it's a good thing. That way you don't raise your troops and they're automatically starving, which is why they made that change. Now, council, here's our wife, obviously. It shows you the different bonuses. You don't have to guess. Depending on what you want it to do. Assist rule gives you kind of a blend of everything, but not as powerful as picking something specific. We have our council here. So this is our bishop, or our court priest. And you'll have all the different jobs. It tells you what they do. So if you're not familiar with this screen, just take your time, look through it, read. You don't have to read much. Effects. It does this. It gives you piety. You get that much piety because of his learning skill, which is 13. And here's possible side effects of him doing this. Oops. Increased vassal opinion, loss of piety if it goes negative, or loss of vassal opinion. Because sometimes they piss people off. You don't always succeed, so they are no exception to that rule. Our chancellor, this is our diplomat. He can either make people around us like us, or domestic affairs. He will make our vassals, which we don't have right now. But if we did, make our vassals like us more. So that's helpful. Collect taxes, get a little bit more in domain tax, 3%. I wouldn't recommend that for a start like this. What I would do is get them automatically on, or first thing rather, increase development of the county. Because your development, ours, which is 4 right now. Yep. And if you hover over it, it'll show you. Supply limit, monthly growth, that's development growth. Okay, plus 0.2 a month. From neighbors, developing county. Here's all the stats. What it comes down to is your supply limit, your levies, and how much tax you can get out of it is all dependent on your development. There's other things that can affect it, but your base is the development. So you want your development as high as possible. Our development is more troops, more money, and that is everything. Okay? Now, Marshal. This guy's in charge of our... this is our commander for our army, basically. Well, I guess I shouldn't use the word commander. But this is your guy. Now, he can either organize your levies, so you'll get a bonus reinforcement. So if, half our troops died, we'll replenish those troops 14% faster. The martial skill is huge. This is a really terrible martial. 10 is average for anything. 10 is average. So that just shows you how good our wife here is with 20 stewardship. 10's average. So if you have anyone higher than 10, even 11, you're doing pretty good. But you want as high as possible. Keep that in mind. Okay, so that's what organized levies does. Or you can have them train your commanders. Your commanders are the champions that we... Well, no, I'm sorry. Well, they can be. But your commanders will be the commanders, the people actually leading each individual army on the battlefield. Okay? Which, if we go here and read the army, left click, hold, there we go. Here's our commander. And you can click this and choose whoever you want. 20 commanders pretty good, by far. But anyway, the reason I'm showing you that is what this will do is train our commanders. As you can see, men-at-arms maintenance goes down, so we'll pay less prestige or gold if you're feudal on maintenance each month for your army, which is great. Chance of improving or finding a new commander or knight each month, plus 3%. That's great. So the ones you have will get better, plus he will recruit new ones. That's fantastic. Also possible negatives, and there's a lot less negatives or possibility of a negative the higher their skill in what they're doing. So keep that in mind. Now, Spy Master. Do not have a Spy Master that hates you. Because if you do, unless you want to purposely die, because this person is in charge of everything dirty. They're in charge of protecting you from assassinations or plots, and they're in charge of helping you with your own. So if you piss this person off, you're dead. Usually. Pretty quick. It's a good way to die. So keep that in mind. Make sure they like you. Disrupt schemes. So this is hostile scheme resistance, which would be a murder plot on you, fabricate claim plot on you. Anything negative against you someone's doing, they help you protect against, is what they do. Chance of discovering schemes against you, etc., etc. So that's normally, this is the go-to default for them to be doing. Now, support schemes. So if you're trying to murder someone or fabricate claim or whatever, you can set them this, and your chance of that happening will be a lot higher. Okay? And that, of course, depends on their amount of intrigue. The higher it is, the better off you are. Here's the possible negatives. Loss of piety, prestige, scheme failure, etc. You know, everything's laid out real well in CK3. It's really user-friendly. Use these boxes. Use the information. It's extremely helpful. Now, if I want to find secrets, now why would I do that? Well, maybe I want to imprison someone or get rid of a vassal. I'll start looking for secrets in whatever area they live in. Or maybe you want to get a hook on someone, etc. We'll go over that in the next video, but finding secrets, depending on what you're doing, you really can make a lot of money. Now, let's see here. Court. This is everyone in your court. Whether they're working or not, these are people in your court. Doctor. We can search for a doctor. Doctor's good to have. Of course. The higher you're learning, the better your doctor will be. You'll learn pretty quick how important your doctor is and how much you want a good one. So I'll just leave that for you to discover. But basically just, search. And hey, if they only show you bad doctors, you don't have to pick it, okay? Just wait and get a good doctor. Unless you're about to die without one. And then here's everyone in your court. Good to know. Now, if you have someone in prison, they'll show them here. We don't currently, of course. Factions. Oh, I'm sorry. Intrigue. Hostile schemes. Personal schemes. Schemes you're doing. Hostile schemes. Schemes other people are doing, against you or not, that you're aware of. Discovered secret schemes. Schemes you've discovered. Okay? Now, hooks you hold. What's a hook? Well, basically they owe you. Okay, you got that hook either, in this case, us being the head of our dynasty, we will always have a weak hook on everyone born. Everyone in our dynasty will have a weak hook. Now, asked to take vows, we'd be able to use a hook. He's not an adult, so he can't right now, but if we wanted him to, he'd have to go be a monk, join the clergy, and he wouldn't be able to inherit anything. Good to know. You always want to educate your kid. This is my grandson. He may not be my next heir, but he'll be relevant pretty quick. So yeah, I want him to have a good education. You click here to choose what he'll focus on. We're tribal. We want diplomacy because we want to go majesty and prestige focus to have a huge army. Maybe you want something else for different reasons, but diplomacy, if you're tribal, is to get a big army. And really, just because prestige can affect what kind of CB, casus belli, a reason for war, you have is diplomacy really in a tribal case. If you're tribal, diplomacy is the warmongering one. So good to know. Keep that in mind. You'll learn diplomacy. All right. So anyway, secrets known to me, hooks on you, your secrets. So when you die and you end up on a new character, you might get hints of him having a secret or something. Maybe he's a cannibal, maybe he's a witch. But anyway, if you go to intrigue, hooks and secrets, it'll tell you your secrets here. And those secrets people can find and blackmail you, etc. It's no bueno, no good for that to happen. But anyway, it's good to know. And a lot of times they happen, just as the AI was in control, and then now you're on the character and you have to live with that what they did. That's fun. Factions against you. We have no vassals, so there are no factions against us. But you want to keep checking this when you do have vassals. You want to know who's trying to do what. Nothing is ever good in here. But it's all needed to know information, so you can, send gifts to people, or get rid of a vassal, or whatever it is you want to do to solve the issue. But keep checking that when you do have vassals. Decisions. Now, major decisions will be up here. Commonly used all the time. Decisions down here. We have invite champions. We've been over that. Take a vow of poverty. That's because we're insular. As you can see, we get less money, but then we gain 2 piety a month. If you're trying to build piety, that's something you can do. Now, keep in mind, if you do this, at any time you can renounce the vow of poverty, so it's not permanent and all be all. So, you're going to find there. Go on a pilgrimage, so we'll go to Jerusalem in this case, being Christian, or Rome, or wherever it is. Different random events will happen. We might get sick, we might gain a trait, we might gain a stat. But in the end, assuming we survive, which usually you do, we'll be a pilgrim and get more piety because of our pilgrimage. Host a feast. If you're stressed out, hosting a feast, unless you're shy. If you're shy, hosting a feast can really stress you out. As you can see, we'll lose stress. It also helps your vassals like you more when you do have vassals. And you can gain prestige there, and prestige is good. So if you can afford it, and the money isn't a big deal, host a feast every time you can. Unless maybe if you're shy, like I said. Going for a hunt, you gain prestige as well. Different random events can happen. Most of them good. Sometimes you might die, but not usually. So go for a hunt as much as possible. Search for a physician. We've been over that. Look for a doctor. See if you like them. If you don't get a decent one, don't take him. Wait for a good one. Because a bad one, you'll end up just killing. Or mangling and killing you. That's been my case anyway. Alright. Down here we have the map mode. Realms. That's the default one you want to be on so you can see the different nations. But maybe you want to see what a duchy covers. Well, here's the duchies. So here's the Duchy of Munster. Here's Connacht. If we owned both, and I died, and had 2 sons, there would then be the Kingdom of Connacht and the Kingdom of Munster, or Duchy, whatever. If that's the highest title, Kingdom is kind of used interchangeably, especially as tribal. But anyway, then if we had 2 sons and owned these 2 lands, then these would pop up even if we only created this title. Confederate partition would make this, and it would be separate from us, because we'd both be the same rank, so they can't be under us. Anyway, keep that in mind. Kingdom map mode. Oh, I'm sorry, that's Empire. This is Kingdom. There we go. Kingdom. We have Ireland, Alba, which is Scotland, England, and Wales. So this is the land you want to own to be able to create said kingdoms. You don't have to own all the land, just most of it. And if you, let's say, click on your territory, Kingdom of Ireland, wow. Create title. Well, we can't because we need 7 counties and we only have 1. And de jure means a county within this area here. Okay? So, it wouldn't help if we had a county in England when we're trying to make Ireland. Okay? Etc. Anyway, it shows you exactly what you need here. 2 duchy titles, 250 gold, 7 counties. And it's like that for everything. So you just click around. We don't own any of this land, so... But yeah. And then Empire. Oop. Empire. Same thing. If you want to make the Empire Britannia. Scandinavia. Russia. Byzantine Empire. Well, they're made from the get-go, but Francia, Hispania, Maghreb, Abyssinia, Persian Empire. You get the idea, etc. Now, religious map mode, very important. The amount of levies you get from each individual county will depend on religion and culture. So, let's say we want to be a different religion. Okay, we choose that religion, but the county itself will still be insular Christianity. Well, crap. So then we would send our priest down there to convert the faith of that county. Maybe we want to be Norse. So we send our kid off to be educated and convert his culture to Norse. Then we become that kid. Well, now we're getting less levies because our culture is different from this county. So we would promote culture to that county. And as you're conquering, keep that in mind. You want to keep the culture and religion to yours as much as possible, and eventually we would want all this to be Irish and insular if that's what we stayed. Even if we conquered England or Scandinavia or whatever it may be. You will get the most troops, the most money, the most levies if they are your culture and religion. Alright, so culture map mode, I just kind of explained that, but this is good to know. Houses. These are the dynasties in charge of these areas. These are the dynasties in charge of these areas. Sorry, my dog had to speak up. He gets really excited when it comes to dynasties. Carling, etc., etc. So, good to know. Then you hit this little plus sign. There's additional map modes. So, government type. We're tribal. This feudal. Clan, that's the Muslim feudal. So, don't be confused by that. There's some minor differences, but that's Muslim feudal. Okay? Just in general. That's Muslim feudal. So, they're going to be some type of Islamic faith. And they're feudal. Tribal, feudal, tribal, etc., etc. You get the idea. And then development. I went over development earlier. But this shows you the most developed areas on the map. As you can see, Constantinople has development 25. Rome, or Roma, has 25 as well. Wow, they start out equal. Interesting. Etc. So good to know. I wish you could go into all these map modes from the starting screen before you pick your character, but you can't. So, but once you're in the game, it's still good to know. Lets you know where you stand, what land is worth the most, etc. Terrain. Now, this can help you for different reasons. Farmland. This is forest. What was farmland? Forest, wetland, forest, hills, forest. Oh, here we go. Farmlands. Farmlands, when you hover over development, the number, we'll see you get a huge bonus from farmlands. Well, it's different for all of them. Farmlands is the best. But there's no defensive bonus on farmlands. Floodplains is also great. But it's good to know. It's good to know as far as your development. To keep that in mind. It's good to know as far as battle and war, etc. Because you'll have different bonuses on all your troops. And depending on the terrain you're on, etc. So, good to keep in mind and be aware of. You may want to check that out at some point. This breaks everything up into county map mode. Shows you all the counties. Pretty self-explanatory. Alright. Whew. There we go. Now, if we look over here, we have our culture. Shows you our tech era and all these different technologies and what we get if we have them, or what the requirements are to get them, etc. You can really just... What's great about CK3 is all these boxes. You can hover over it, look at it, read it, see what it does, how it helps you, etc. So, I'm not going to read all these to you. You can go through them yourself. But our culture head, now this is whoever owns the most land of that culture. Okay? So if we start conquering and we end up owning more Irish land than anyone else, we then become the culture head. So you going learning scholarship focus? Everyone that's Irish culture gets the benefit from the technology. But most importantly, you. So keep that in mind. And that's also another reason to convert your counties on top of all the other ones I gave you. Religion. This shows you everything about your religion, what's a virtue, what's a sin, what tenets you have. You can also create a new faith. I'll go over more detail with that in the more advanced video. Because there's, depending on your playstyle, there's different things you want, but as far as strategy, there's some pretty good go-tos with benefits you really want to consider. But I'll go over that in more detail next video. Dynasty, I already went over. Alright, well, it looks like that really concludes our basics. I'm going to save this for the next video because there's... You can read through it, but there's advanced play style and strategies I really want to go over if I get into this, and I want that to be in the next video. So, Crusader Kings 3 tutorial, the basics. I hope this helped you guys, and watch for my next video, which will be on advanced strategies. So you can conquer the world starting out as Desmond here, or whatever puny county you start as, or whoever you are, whatever you start as, you'll be able to conquer the world just like me. In Iron Man, no mods. Make you a pro.